In the last couple lessons, you have learned how to divide by a two-digit divisor. Now in this lesson, we are continuing that topic and we are dividing still by a two-digit divisor. But here in this lesson, we're going to have a four-digit dividend. So it's pretty much the exact same thing as what we've been doing, but the only thing is here we have one extra digit where now we need to repeat the process of division one extra time. So if you understood the previous lessons, this lesson is a continuation of the previous lessons. So what we have here are three different examples. So example 1 is given where we have 8,374 chairs that are arranged in 31 rows. So this would be an example of dividing where we're trying to figure out how many chairs are in each row. All right, so we would divide the chairs by the number of rows, and we can do that using our long division process. Now again, our steps are the same as with any other long division, and here we are dividing 8,374 by 31. So notice we have four digits in the dividend. So we have 8,374. We have four digits. And when you begin with step 1, we are dividing. But what we're dividing would be, here in this case, 83 by 31. So you take the first two digits in this case and divide by 31. So you're asking yourself, how many times does 31 go into 83? And that's going to be 2 times. So you put a 2 up here, and then we can do step 2, which is multiply. 2 times 31, and that would give you 62. Step 3 is subtract, so 83 minus 62, and so 3 minus 2 is 1, and then 8 minus 6 is 2, so we have 21 when you subtract. Now step 4 is bring down, so we can bring down the 7 and then repeat the process. Now we have 217 divided by 31. So we need to figure out how many times does 31 go into 217. And if you're not sure, you could look at 31 and round that to 30. All right, and we can figure out 30 times what would get us close to 217. Well, 30 times 7 would be 210, 21 with the 0. So that would give us pretty close. So let's try a 7. So we put a 7 up here, and we do 31 times 7. So 7 times 1 is 7, 7 times 3 is 21. That gives you 217 exactly. So that goes there, and then we can subtract, and then 217 minus 217 would be 0. And then step 4 is bring down. So we bring down the 4, and then repeat the process. 4 divided by 31 would be 0, because 31 does not go into 4 at all. So a 0 goes up here, and then we can multiply for step 2. 0 times 31 is 0. Step 3 is subtract. 4 minus 0 is 4. And then 4 would be the remainder. So our solution is 270 with remainder of 4. So what that means is that if you're putting the same number of chairs in each row, we have 270 chairs in each row, and then we have 4 chairs left over. And so with those 4 remaining chairs, you can do what you want with those, but there would be 4 chairs remaining. Now, as with any division problem, we can check our work, and we can do that by doing 31 times 270 plus the remainder of 4. So 31 times 270, or 270 times 31, same thing. If we do that, we would do 1 times 0, 1 times 7, 1 times 2, then put a 0 here and repeat. So 3 times 0, 3 times 7 is 21. Take the 1, carry the 2. So then we have 3 times 2 plus 2, which is 8. And then we can add these together. 0 plus 0, 7 plus 0, 2 plus 1, and then 8 in the front. That gives you 8,370. Plus the remainder of 4, that gives you 8,374. And that matches the dividend, so therefore we do have the correct solution. Let's try another example. Here we are told that 5,684 students are put into 65 classrooms. And if we're trying to figure out how many students are in each classroom, assuming that we put the same number in each classroom, what we would do is we divide. We would divide 5,684 by 65. So when you do this, again, the steps are the same as with any other long division problem. So what we do is we see how many times does 65 go into 56, which it does not go into 56. So we have to extend this to include a third digit. Now we have 568 divided by 65. So to do this, we can kind of estimate to figure out where we should begin with the numbers that we put up here. So if we round 65 to 70, we can ask ourselves what times 70 would give you 56, or something near that number. So if we do 8 times 70, that would be 56 with a 0, right? 560. So maybe 8 would work. 8 would get us pretty close to 568. So if we put an 8 up here, we can then do 8 times 65. So when you do that, 8 times 5 is 40. You take the 0, carry the 4. 8 times 6 is 48, plus 4 is 52. And that gives you 520. So if you subtract those numbers, that would give you 48. So that works because 48 is smaller than 65. So we do have the correct number. And then we can bring down the 4 and repeat. So now we do 484 divided by 65. So now to figure out what number goes up here, we again can round 65 to 70, and then try to figure out what multiplies with 70 to get close to 484. Well, if you do 7 times 70, that gives you 490. That's a little too big. But since we're multiplying by 65 instead, 7 might actually work fine. So we can try 7. And so we put a 7 up here. Now let's try 65 times 7. When you do that, 7 times 5 is 35. Take the 5, carry the 3. Then we do 7 times 6 to get 42, plus 3. That gives you 45. So it's not too big. We have 455. So if you subtract those, then we would have 7 here. 14 minus 5 is 9. 7 minus 5 is 2. So 29 is the remainder. It's smaller than 65, so that works. So that would be your answer. We have 87 with the remainder of 29. So what that means in this context is that in each classroom, we would have 87 students, and then there's a remainder of 29, meaning there's 29 students left over that you need to put into those classrooms still. So each room we get 87, and then 29 kids left over. And then to check our work, what we can do is we can multiply the 65 times 87, then add that with the 29, the remainder. So let's try that. So let's check our work. We would do 87 times 65. So we do 5 times 7 to get 35. Take the 5, carry the 3. 5 times 8 plus 3 is 43. Put a 0 here and repeat. 6 times 7 is 42. Put a 2 here, carry the 4. 6 times 8 plus 8 would be 52. Now we add these together. We get 5, 5, 6, and 5. Then we add the remainder of 29. So when you add that together, 5 plus 9 is 14. Take the 4, carry the 1. 1 plus 5 plus 2 is 8. Then we have a 6 and then a 5. So 5,684, that matches with the dividend. So therefore we do have the correct solution, which would be 87 with remainder of 29. Let's take a look at one more example. Here we have $6,712 divided among 25 people. So the word divide is right in there, right? You're dividing or separating into to give to 25 different people. So we're just dividing the two numbers. So we divide 6,712 by 25. So to do this, again, we follow our steps just like normal. So we do 67 divided by 25. So we need to figure out how many times does 25 go into 67. Well, it's going to go in 2 times without going over. So let's put a 2 up here. And then step 2 is multiply. 2 times 25 is 50. And then step 3 is subtract. 67 minus 50, that would give you 17. So that works because 17 is smaller than 25. So now we can carry on with step 4, which is bring down. We're going to bring down the 1 and then repeat the process. Now we do 171 divided by 25. So this one, you got to think through how many times does 25 go into 171. And with 25, you can kind of think of this as quarters. So if you imagine a quarter, quarter's 25 cents, 4 quarters makes $1 or 100 cents. 2 more quarters would be 50 cents, right? 150 or 150 cents. So 6 quarters would be 150. 7 quarters would be another 25 cents, which is 175, and that's too big, right? We need 171. So what this would be 6. So like 6 quarters is 150 cents. So 6 times 25 is going to be 150. And you could multiply that out. 25 times 6, we have 30, carry the 3. 6 times 2 plus 3 is 15. So now step 3 is subtract. 171 minus 150, that would give you 21. So that is your remainder, and then we can do step 4, which is bring down. So bring down the 2 and then repeat. So 212 divided by 25 is what? And again, with 25, I like to think of quarters. So 4 quarters would be 100 cents, 8 quarters would be 200 cents, right? The 8 quarters is $2. So if we have an 8 up there, 8 quarters, or 8 times 25, would be 200. So that's what we want up there. We want 8. So now we can do 25 times 8, and as we said, that would be 200. If you didn't know that, you can multiply. 8 times 5 is 40, so put a 0, carry the 4. 8 times 2 plus 4 is 20. So it would be 200, and then we subtract. That gives you 12 as the remainder. So what we have is 268 with a remainder of 12. So in the context of this problem, that means each person would get $268, and then there's going to be $12 remaining. So that $12 you have to figure out what to do with that, how to distribute that between the 25 people. Now we could double check our work if we wanted. So again, to check, we would do the 268 times the 25 and then add the remainder of 12. So if you do this, we would do 5 times 8 to get 40. Take the 0, carry the 4. 5 times 6 plus 4 is 34. So take the 4, carry the 3. 5 times 2 plus 3 is 13. And then we can put a 0 here and repeat. 2 times 8 is 16. So take the 6, carry the 1. 2 times 6 plus 1 is 13. So take the 3, carry the 1. 2 times 2 plus 1 is 5. So now you can add those together. 0 plus 0, 4 plus 6 is 10. Take the 0, carry the 1. 1 plus 3 is 7. And 1 plus 5 is 6. So we have 6,700, and then add the remainder of 12. So when you add that, we get 6,712. Notice that matches the dividend. So therefore, that means we have the correct solution, which was 268 with remainder of 12. And that concludes our lesson for today. We will see you next time.